Hi, you're listening to Book Chat with author Vivian E. Moore.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Book Chat. I am your host, author Vivian E. Moore. I hope everyone is having a lovely weekend. I hope you had a great Labor Day weekend. We did not broadcast last week, and I missed talking with you guys. I hope that you had a wonderful holiday. I hope that you've had a great week. And, and just keep the people that are in the line of the Hurricane Dorian. And I'm not sure the next one that's right behind that one, but most definitely Dorian. Please keep them in your prayers. The people that are in the Bahamas and in the South Carolina, along the coast there, in your prayers, please. It's just heartbreaking. When I look at the news and social media and just listen to some of the people who survived, and and just keep them in your prayers, and all the families of the ones who perished during the storm. It's just so heartbreaking. It really, really, truly is, and so devastating. We just have to do what we can to try to help. I mean, it seems like, it's hopeless, but nothing is hopeless unless you give up hope completely. And so we just want to keep them in our prayers, and, and just help out where you can, if you can, just by sharing the stories. And maybe if you can't, help them, in a monetary way or whatever way you can, just pass the information along to someone who possibly can help, because it's important, that what's happened, is shared with as many people as possible, just to keep everyone aware, just to just keep them in touch with what's going on, to let those people know in the Bahamas that we're thinking about them, that, we haven't forgotten about them, and we do sympathize with everything that they're going through. You never really know what to say or what to do in situations like this until you're in that situation. Quite a few years ago, about 8 years ago, we had tornadoes. I mean, we had like a day of tornadoes, and they were just hitting all around our community. They were like 3 states wide, and never in my lifetime have I ever experienced anything like that before. And, maybe it's not as devastating as the hurricane that hit the Bahamas, but the devastation was just horrible, especially when it's something that you've never experienced before. And, where we live, we don't get a lot of tornadoes, but that day, that year, it's just something that you won't ever forget it. You will always remember it, because there was a loss of life, a loss of properties. It was horrible. It was something that I never ever want to experience again, if possible, because it was so devastating, mentally, physically, financially, for a lot of people. I thank God every day that He spared us, but there were a lot of people who wasn't spared, And, and believe it or not, they are still rebuilding their lives from what happened 8 years ago. So it's just something to always, keep in mind and to think about others. All right. So now that I said that, let's move on to today's show. All right. The title of today's show is Simply the Best. And the topic is my top 10 fave book list. All right. So are you ready for that? Okay. Well, let's go. So if you are in a book club, or if you have a summer reading list or a fall reading list, then, or if you're just a book lover, then this is the show you want to listen to, okay? So today I'll share with you my top 10 books for 2019. Now, I love romance, but I'm a multi-genre kind of girl who will read anything that interests me. So without further ado, number 10 on my list is If I Break by Portia Moore. Now, earlier this year, I interviewed Portia, and we had an excellent discussion about all her books in this series, because it is a book series. And you might want to check out that episode too. Anyway, this book will probably remain on my top 10 list always, because it is so deep. And it touches on mental illness and personality disorders. And, I've never read a book that moved me so emotionally. And it also educated me at the same time. With realistic characters and issues, some people are reluctant to talk about. But let me tell you that this book, oh my gosh, it is just so wonderful. The whole series is just so wonderful. I fell in love with that first book, reading it, and I had to read every book in that series because it just kept getting better and better the more I read. So I want to share that with you. So you need to get that book. Once again, If I Break by Portia Moore. It's the If I Break series by Portia Moore, and she has a new book out now called Her. So you might want to check that one out too. All right. So number 9, and by the way, I'm going backwards. Okay. So number 9 is Inarticulate by Eden Summers. And after reading this book, I'm a fan of hers, and it's why I'm recommending it too, because it is such a great book, and it's such a great book club read if you want to choose this one for your book club list. Now, I love books where there are challenges that don't fit the description of everyday life. Now, this book will capture your attention and your soul within the first few minutes of reading it. So I can't tell you a whole lot about it without giving the plot away, and I don't want to do that. I want you to go out and read this book. Now, it came out a few years ago, and I actually read it a couple of years ago, but still, it stayed with me. This book stayed with me, and it's not what you expect. And I love books that are like this. So hopefully you will too, but it's called Inarticulate by Eden Summers. All right. So number 8 on my list is The Gifting by K.E. Ganshart. Now, this is another series of books, and it's a thrill ride from the word go. It is sci-fi at its best, and it plays with your imagination, and it will have you second guessing everything the character sees and says. But what she discovers is that she's not the only person who can see beyond what everyone else can't see. So you need to get this book, The Gifting by K.E. Ganshart. This book is, oh my gosh, it just wowed me from the very first paragraph in reading it. The girl with the denim eyes, and it is so spectacular. It really is. And you will not be sorry if you get this book. And it also came out a few years ago, and it was pretty popular on Audible, because I actually listened to it. A lot of these books that I'm telling you about, they are also on Audible. So you might want to, if you like picking up a physical book, then you can definitely get it in paperback or ebook. But if you like listening to books, then Audible is the way to go. And all of these books are on Audible if you want to listen to them. All right. So number 7 is The Delphi Effect by Rysa Walker. That's R-Y-S-A Walker. And I stumbled upon this book by accident. I am in Amazon Prime. And of course, not only can you order and get stuff in 2 days, you can also get books. And a lot of the books have audio as companions with the books that are on Amazon Prime. And this is where I found this book. And so I was looking for something good to read, because a lot of times, they don't have a whole lot of books on the on the Amazon Prime. You can get the Kindle Unlimited, and so it has a greater list of books that you can read. But just on the Amazon Prime, it's not a whole lot. Well, it is, just depending on the type of book that you're looking for. But anyway, this is where I was first introduced to the Delphi effect, and so I love sci-fi, and this book is sci-fi. This series of books, they had me on the edge of my seat just in anticipation. Now, I love a great ghost story, but this goes way beyond that. And once you delve into the story, you will discover its complexity and how the main character gained her ability to see ghosts and talk to them. And as I said before, it is a series of books. I can't remember the exact amount, but I think I've read at least 3 or 4 of the books that's in this series. And Risa Walker has done another set of book series, but this one I think is probably one of my favorites, and I highly recommend you get this series of books. And this one, well, maybe it wouldn't go over too well as a book club read, but definitely a summer or a fall book list read. You could just on a rainy day, maybe you could read 2 or 3 books, just whatever suits your fancy, but definitely put this on your list of books to read because it is great. And I mentioned that it was a ghost story, but it's more than just a ghost story. And again, I don't want to give away the plot of the book, but if you just go out there and look it up, it'll give you a little bit more detail than what I am, but I'm just telling you the effects that it had on me, and so that's why it's number 7 on my list. Okay, so number 6 is The Vampire's Mail Order Bride, and this book is by Kristen Painter. Let me just tell you, this book is so quirky and funny as all get out. Now, if you love lighthearted entertainment, then this is a great read, and this one would also make a good book club read. The main character, and I will give you the plot on this one because I'm not going to destroy anything by telling you that much. But anyway, the main character is trying to escape the mob, and so she's trying to assume another identity. So she pretends to be the mail order bride and gets more than what she bargained for from a 400-year-old vampire. Now, I love this book, and it has some very funny parts in it. It's very, like I said, it's very entertaining. And if you just want to read a book where you just want to laugh a little bit and then have maybe some seriousness along the lines, but you will probably laugh more than anything in this book, The Vampire's Mail Order Bride by Kristen Painter. Just the title alone made me laugh. And it was one of the reasons why I selected this book. I was like, well, I like vampires, so let me just read it and see what it's about. And I was so glad that I followed through and actually read this book because I laughed so much reading this book. It is such a great read. It's such a fun read. So you want to get that one as well. Okay, so number 5 is Deep in the Heart by Stacey Stallings. Now, this book made my list because, let's face it, I'm a sucker for sappy romance. And seriously, though, this book tugged on my heartstrings because, first of all, I'm team underdog, and this book is listed under the Christian fiction. If you want to check it out, and it is an absolutely fantastic read if you are a fan of this genre, and it will leave you emotionally drained, but in a good way. Now, the main character will have you crying for her situation, but in every great story there's always a knight in shining armor who comes to the rescue, and this book it actually left me with a good feeling all the way through the book. There are parts of it that, just like I said, it just pulled at my heartstrings. It just had me just so emotionally charged, sometimes sad, sometimes happy, of all the things that this young woman went through. But it's such a lovely read, and again, it's under the genre of Christian fiction. So if you like it, then you should definitely read it. But it made my list as number 5, so that's saying a lot about this book. Okay, so number 4 is The Last Kingdom by Bernard Cornwell. Now, if you are a fan of medieval fiction and you love book series, then this one you should add to your list. And not only is it a book series, but a fan favorite on Netflix. Now, I'm Team Uhtred all the way. Now, he's half Saxon and half Viking warrior. And Uhtred was... he was taken by the Viking warriors after a battle with his Saxon clan. His father was killed, his brother was killed, and so he was taken hostage by the Vikings, and so he was raised half Viking, and but still he has his Saxon heritage, but he's Viking all the way, just to look at him and everything he is, but still it's such a tremendous book series to start out reading. Very detailed, and what's not to like about Uhtred's character or this book. Now I could spend all day talking about it, but I must move on. And in the meanwhile, you should read the books first, then check out the TV series on Netflix. I think the next season, I'm not sure if it's 4 or 5, but anyway, it will be coming out soon. I have seen updates on, I get them regularly on Instagram and also on Twitter about The Last Kingdom. So, but if you want to catch up on the series, then I think it's on Netflix. I think all of the seasons are on there up till season 3, season 4. Maybe season 4 is on there. This may be season 5 that's coming out. But still, I would urge you to read the book series first. It's a lot of books, but if you can at least read the first 5, it will catch you up to the series. Okay. So anyway, number 3 on my list is The Kiss Thief by L.J. Shin. Now, I am a huge fan of L.J. Shin. I have read just about every book that this author has put out. Now, this book is a new adult romance. If you're a fan of that, and if you are, then you will love it. Now, it wasn't what I expected. It was so much better than what I expected. And understand it is a love story, but one with a ton of dysfunctional individuals. And I'm sure that you're accustomed to that when you read these type of books. All of the characters have flaws, and that's just us in a nutshell as humans. We do too. But anyway, it will have you cursing the male lead. But then you'll cheer him on too later on in the story as the story unfolds. But I highly recommend this book, The Kiss Thief by L.J. Shin. It touched me in a way that that kept me thinking about this story, and it's why it's number 3 on my list. And so I hope you will go out there and get it, and not only check out this book by L.J. Shin, but check out all the other ones as well, because this author is, like I said, is becoming one of my top favorite authors to read, and the Kiss Thief is really, really good. I think you'll like it. All right, so number 2 on the list is Gods and Monsters by Saffron A. Kent. Now, I love her name, Saffron. I really do. But anyway, the title of this book would have you believe that it's horror, but it's actually a beautiful love story filled with pitfalls and misunderstandings. Now, I read this book because many people haven't read it, and it's what piqued my interest. And when I said many people haven't read this, and you may ask, well, how do you know that? Well, okay. So whenever I'm strolling through books, trying to find a good book to read, I always look at the amount of stars and the amount of reviews attached to the books. And this book had low reviews. It had like 4.5 stars, but the review count was very, very low. But the people who had read this book, they gave it great reviews. So I was like, okay, I'm going to check it out. And so I did. I read this book, and oh my gosh, it's such a good read. It's a coming of age story, and it's just a great book, and I promise you will love it. And it's listed under the young adult genre. And again, I'm team underdog, but this book is totally worth the time spent reading it. So you should get it, Gods and Monsters. The cover of the book is, it's not that great, but still, it's a good read, and you should get it. All right, so that's number 2, Gods and Monsters by Saffron A. Kent. All right, so big drum roll for number 1 on my top 10 list, A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. All right, Deborah Harkness hands down. Now, Outlander used to be my number one book. Deborah Harkness has taken the place of Outlander completely. A Discovery of Witches. Outlander is still on my list, but now it doesn't fall in the top 10. It's probably 11. But still, oh my goodness, A Discovery of Witches. Okay, first, I had never heard of this author until I stumbled across this series on Facebook, of all places. You know how when you're on there, and depending on what you see, you'll get the advertisements for those things that you look at the most on there. So anyway, I look at a lot of things that pertain to books, and of course, those are the things that come across my feed, the algorithms. So that's what they're basing this on, is the algorithms. All right. So anyway, they had a movie trailer. So right away, I was interested just watching that trailer, and to my delight, discovered it's based on a series of books. So right away, I went to my favorite source, Amazon and Audible, because I listen to books more than I read due to time limitations, and I bought them all. And once I had completed the series, I watched the series streaming on Sundance Now and AMC and the BBC America. Now I just threw those other ones in. So if you don't have Sundance Now, if you have AMC, or if you don't have AMC, if you have BBC America, then there are 3 ways, and also it's on the Chiller network. So there's more than one way to watch A Discovery of Witches, and it's the first season. The second season will be coming out soon. Hopefully, I can't wait for it. But anyway, these books, there are 3 books. The Discovery of Witches series. Oh my goodness! I am a major fan of this author and the characters, portraying the characters in the books. Let's see. Well, Matthew Good. Everybody knows who Matthew Good is. I hope you do. But anyway, he plays the part of Matthew, the vampire, in this story. And then Teresa, gosh, I always have a hard time trying to remember her last name. But anyway, she plays the female lead in the the television series. But now, if you haven't seen this series yet, please read the books first. The storyline has not been compromised in the TV series, but the books are they're just always better. And this book touches every book genre across the board, and it's packed with history. And if you like magic, it's packed with magic. And I promise you will not be disappointed when you read these series of books. Oh my gosh, it's a love story. Just let me throw that in there too. It's definitely a love story. And it's just the book is just so wonderfully written, and the series is just so wonderfully acted. I promise you, I have grandkids, and they're young, but one Sunday I was sitting in the den, and I think we had already eaten Sunday dinner. But anyway, trying to find something on television that all of us can watch. And this book doesn't have a lot of profanity, hardly any, actually. Doesn't have nudity, not a lot. They don't show anything. But anyway, we were watching one of the episodes. Now, it's one season, but I think it's like 8 episodes, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, this book had them enraptured with watching it. They were sitting there so quietly, just watching it along with me. And I just, turned my head a little bit to look. I was like, oh my gosh, they like it too. So, but anyway, you really, really do need to read the books first, because they are, wow, just wonderful. And all 3 books, it's just packed with so much excitement and so much information. You learn a lot. And, I don't know how true some of the things they talk about, but I think that's one of the reasons why this book is so interesting, is because they take a little bit of things that exist that are halfway true, and then of course they embellish, and add all these other things to it. So it'll have you thinking, okay, is that even possible? But oh my gosh, it is so good. It is so entertaining. And I can't talk about it enough. And that's just the thing with me and great books. I have to share. I can't ever keep these things to myself. I have to tell everybody that will listen about a great book. And and maybe later on, maybe before the end of the year, I'll do another show with another 10 of my favorite books to read, the top 10 of my favorite books to read, because I have so many of them. But I just want to narrow it down to 10 today, and just share these with you. And I'll share more with you, in the coming months on those Saturdays. When I don't have guests on the show, I will most definitely share all of those, share some more books with you. And I would love to have your feedback too on some of your favorite books, the books that are on your favorite list as well. Share those and we'll talk about it. All right, folks. So basically that's all I have for you today. And I hope that you will go out and, go out there on Amazon and check out some of these books. Go out there on Audible and find you a great book to listen to. Even if it's not one of these 10 books, they have a ton of others that you can go out there and read, and just enjoy, reading, because it's a wonderful thing to be able to pick up a good book and just read it at your leisure. And tomorrow is worship day, and I hope that you're planning on going to church tomorrow. And if you do, take some family members, take some neighbors, take some friends, and by all means, take some children with you and tell someone that you love them, because tomorrow is not promised. Today may be the only chance you get to say that. So I love you. I hope you love me back. Until the next time you hear my voice, God bless you and goodbye.
Loved what you've heard on this week's episode? Well, the answer is simple. It would mean the world to us if you could head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review and feedback. Spreading the word really is the best way to grow our podcast and achieve even greater things. Thank you.